For generations, the peaceful valley of Oakhaven rested quietly beneath the shadow of the great northern peaks, completely unaware of the sudden fury that was sleeping within the mountains. Hana lived in a small cottage near the riverbank, her days filled with the laughter of a life she cherished before the heavy rains began to fall. In a single, terrifying night, the river broke its banks, transforming the peaceful valley into a roaring sea of dark, churning water. Hana fled to the high hills, clutching only a wooden lantern, watching helplessly as the waters claimed everything she had ever known or loved. When the morning sun finally broke through the heavy clouds, it revealed a landscape of mud, broken branches, and profound, echoing silence. Weeks passed, and while others began to rebuild their homes, Hana remained in the ruins, her heart locked in a state of quiet grief. The villagers tried to comfort her, offering warm soup and words of encouragement, but their kindness felt like a distant murmur against her pain. She felt like a ghost wandering the edges of a world that was moving on without her, leaving her behind in the dark. One evening, unable to bear the heavy silence of the valley, Hana packed a small satchel and decided to walk up toward the high mountain paths. The air grew thin and cold as she climbed higher, the rustling leaves of the forest whispering ancient secrets she could not comprehend. She reached a rocky overlook that surveyed the entire basin, looking down at the thread of the river that had changed her life forever. Hana looked up at the vast sky and whispered, "Why did you leave me behind when you took everything else?" Only the wind replied, carrying the faint, unexpected sound of a child crying somewhere deeper in the woods. Startled by the sound, Hana pushed her grief aside and followed the soft cries through a dense thicket of old-growth briars. Under the hollow of an ancient, moss-covered oak tree, she found a small boy shivering in the damp, cold evening air. Hana knelt on the damp earth and said gently, "It is all right now, little one. You are safe. I will not let the cold harm you." She wrapped her warm woolen shawl around his trembling shoulders, feeling a long, forgotten spark of protective instinct flare to life in her chest. The boy looked up with wide, wet eyes and whispered, "I lost my way when the water came. I cannot find my home." Hana pulled him into a warm, tight embrace and replied, "Then we will find it together, Rowan. You do not have to walk alone anymore." With the child resting in her arms, Hana felt a strange, quiet strength returning to her weary, grief-stricken limbs. She brought him to an abandoned forester cabin high on the ridge, a place untouched by the floods below. Inside, Hana quickly built a warm hearth fire, the crackling logs casting a golden, comforting glow across the small wooden room. As Rowan ate a simple bowl of warm broth, he looked up and asked, "Do you think the river is still angry at us?" Hana shook her head softly and replied, "No, Rowan. The river only flows as it must. It does not hold anger, and neither should we." As she spoke the words aloud, she realized she was finally beginning to believe them herself, the cold knot in her chest slowly melting away. Over the following days, the cabin became a haven of recovery, filled with the quiet rhythms of shared work and healing. Rowan held up a handful of damp soil and laughed. "Look, Hana, the earth is soft and full of new life. Everything is growing again." She watched him, marveling at how easily children found beauty in the aftermath of a storm, and felt her own heart open. But the peace of the ridge was shattered when dark, heavy clouds gathered once more over the high northern peaks, threatening a second flood. Rowan ran to her side, his eyes wide with fear. "Hana, the sky is turning black again. Will the river swallow us up?" Hana looked down at him, her voice steady and resolute. "No, Rowan. We know how the water moves now. We will help the valley prepare." Instead of running in fear, Hana led Rowan down into the valley, her intimate knowledge of the river's paths guiding their way. She reached the village just as the first raindrops began to fall, finding the people panicked and disorganized in the center square. Hana climbed onto the stone well, her voice ringing clear over the crowd. "Listen to me! The water will crest at the northern bend. We must move to the high ridge cabin now. Inspired by her strength, the villagers quickly followed her lead, carrying the elderly and children up the safe mountain paths she had mapped. From the safety of the high ridge, they watched as the river swelled once more, but this time, every single soul was safe from its reach. An elder of the village walked up to Hana, bowed deeply and said, "You saved us, Hana. Your wisdom was the light we needed in the dark." Hana looked down at Rowan, who was holding her hand tightly, and replied, "It was not my light. It was the path we were shown when we chose to care for one another." Hana finally understood that the darkest night of her life hadn't been an end, but a quiet, painful redirection toward a much greater purpose. For she was no longer just a mother who had lost her home. She had become the guardian, the protector, and the mother of the entire valley.